We're so happy to have you joining us online this summer for this special Plants and Music programming series, where we explore the realm of plant music and meet musicians, sound designers, inventors, and scientists who create and utilize innovative technologies to engage with plants in remarkable ways. Get ready for a truly unique and educational experience. Today's program, Biotherapeutic Soundbath, is an online demonstration and Q&A presented by Imka, a multi-hyphenate creative in the world of biotherapeutic music, sound making, and visual art. This session will continue to orient us to the dynamic terrain of plant music through experiencing an audio environment in sync with the rhythms of plants. Drawing inspiration from a deep love of nature, technology, and wellness, Imka uses music co-produced with plants to help individuals live healthier lifestyles. Imka has produced several live interactive sound installations with plants from DC to the West Coast. Welcome our biotherapeutic musician, producer, and owner of Evidence of Yesterday Studio right here in Washington, DC. We are proud to present Imka.
Hey everybody, how y'all doing? And thank you for having me, Courtney. Thank you, United States Botanical Gardens. Thank you, Washington, D.C., for allowing me to do what I do for the people and for the world. Do plant-based composition and performance and deep listenings and sound baths. Yeah. But to get started, what we're going to be doing here soon is going to be a 5-minute sound bath. Today I'll be performing, I guess you would say, it would be deep listening today. You have the ability to put your headphones on and listen that way. Or if you already prepared yourself for a sound bath and you have your yoga mats and you want to do your poses and stretches and things through the time of this 5-minute sound bath, you can start. And we're going to take about like 30 seconds just for people to get ready. And after that, I'll go ahead and start the sound bath and we'll go from there. So, and we got some cool people in here. I see Chris in here. What's up, Chris? We have Amma. We got a lot of people. Nia. Yeah. How y'all doing? But in about 10 seconds, we'll go ahead and start the process. So give me one moment and see you in about 5 minutes. All right, and we're beginning in 5 seconds. Enjoy.
I just want to speak in very low tones. That was incredible. That was incredible. Thank you so much. We are truly, truly looking forward to hearing more. I'm trying to get it so that we're both in the screen here. Give me a second. There we go.
Hey, there we
Ah
go.
ha 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 ha. Yes, Imka, what an offering. What a gift. Can you tell us more about how you even got to this place of plant music technology?
Actually, it started out as a ode to my stepmom, Valerie Monroe, who passed away from cancer when I was in high school,
Mm,
2005. She was a botanist. She's one who basically, taught me how to tend gardens, and during that transition of my life or whatnot, with other personal stuff, family things. Yeah, she grounded me, on certain things, I should be doing as a man, and just how to be a better, for my community and the people. So when I started Evidence of Yesterday, it was something that I wanted to challenge myself on with taking away a lot of the, I guess you would say, the percussion and drums, because I was always told that my music over time um, was very ambient, could be in movies or video games. So yeah, it was like, oh, they heard. And I was doing research before I started the process of this about 5 years ago, where um, it came up on my timeline, devices or just the technology of like EKG and turning it into computer data. And
mm,
I found that as something unique and a new challenge because I've been producing music and been everywhere in the world and worked with so many artists for 15 years that I think it was time for me to like do something unique for myself, and beneficial for the things that I always wanted to do with, I guess doing the sound bath and being more communicative, with, people who felt the same as far as having a love for music and how it makes them feel. And yeah, started the process of contacting some people and got a device sent to me for the Manyara, and I expand on that technology by adding in my own like Ableton Live devices or learning how to take other pieces of information from the device on the control voltage side and control other parameters, within my software synthesizers or hardware synthesizers or effect modules. Um, and that's how Manyara, which is the first plant-based, biotherapeutic album that I released, that explored those lanes. And here we are. I have I had two versions of Manyara. One was just very bleepish, bloppish, very simple. And as I started to get more into understanding how to write music, as far as more of an asynchronization and not worrying about being synced up by a timestamp or by a grid, I came to just more put more of a jazz avant-garde, into all of this. And
mhm,
next thing you know, I'm at Eden, doing sound baths with them and working with other botanic gardens or nurseries in the area, and such as USBG, to collect the data and come back home and test it out. And next thing you know, yeah, we're here.
yeah.
So
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's such a lovely partnership, right, between the technology and then also just your personal artistry, because you had mentioned this journey that you went on. How you kind of said that it began as kind of bleepy, bloppy, and
yeah,
then
and
as
then it
you
became more
more, right,
orchestral. Yeah, I didn't get to
yeah,
say that. Yeah,
the artist.
it got more orchestral and expressing.
Yeah, I
You know,
love that. I love that. And like one of our folks want to know, have you ever been surprised by the plant's contribution? Like that in
yeah,
this lovely relationship of art and technology and now plant life. Have you ever been surprised by the plant's
yeah.
contribution?
Because doing this, you get to see how plants like react in real life, as far as when it deals with the temperature, the type of water, type of soil, or just how you tend to it, of where it's at in health.
Yeah.
I'll say, for an example, what kind of blew me away was, I guess, how they say, don't judge a book by its cover. But, when you look at a cactus, you look at it as something that it's always stationary, but it's very dangerous. But it also gives you like a dark, low feeling, of its presence, even though it's beautiful, but it still gives you like a
Mm-hmm.
dark presence. And taking and knowing of that visually, of like how I look at a cacti, um, it translate into my music a couple times, to where you get that visual for the data that's coming in, to where it's very low on the key scale. And just as you see what was going across the screen, that was MIDI data. Sometimes you will get like spikes of just, hey, like I'm alive.
Yeah.
But and how I look at that is like, yeah, like imagine if you bumped into it, like you created an energy source, a transfer of energy, to where it went into a higher level than what you think what it is, as far as dangerous and low. So
Gotcha.
just to see that, come up with my scale where it only really attacked like bass notes, and that's where I kind of like use a lot of cacti, just like desert plants, for like the
Okay.
bass part of my production. And normally I kept it in that. Then you have your plants that are outside, that are very high active, on communication of data, to where I'm getting millions of notes, a second, to where I have to adjust the threshold of the reading, from the
And are
notes
those
on the plants.
those plants that are like normally really, I'm sorry, I'm just very excited. So those plants that are normally that give off the most, what would you say the type of plants they are? They more so the tropical plants,
Yeah,
the
more your
more the
tropical,
Mediterranean?
outside, 100% harshness from sun. Like I got the most
Okay.
activity from them. More of like your house plants is very moderate, and plants that are dying barely give you any signal. So
Right.
with those three things, that's how I kind of treated, my way of like how I guess you would say, layering my instruments, layering, effects, and staying within certain parameters of my music production. And the reason I say that I have a different version of many hours is because of the fact that I was understanding that in my process of
Okay.
like how far I can really go with
Okay.
understanding what is being sent to me from these devices.
Yeah, I mean, is folks in the chat now that want to know, like, please explain the process. Like, how does this process work? Like, how do you actually engage with the plants? If you had to take us step by step, beginner, never seen it before,
Yeah.
how does
I
this process?
say, yeah, I mean, you can pick any plant that you like. It's all
Okay,
about how you study it and what's going to happen at the end. But you are the controller of all the data, because it's MIDI. So it's not the plants making the sound. It's basically them wanting to make a sound, and you have to make sound by being a sound designer, engineer. All of the faders and knobs
uh-huh.
that you see here, and knowing your craft of
Yeah.
what's in your
Can you
studio.
show us the faders and knobs? Because you have that view. Yeah, can we see
Mhm.
it?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So
I'm speaking for the audience right now because I know I'm speaking for the culture right now because I know
yeah,
they want to
yeah. So
know.
there's many ways. There's multiple ways of how I create these
Yeah.
sounds for plants. And today is just one of them. But the starting process, of course, would be having a plant like what you see here. Obviously, you can see as well, it's not really doing great. It's never really in the sun, but I wanted to have a moderate pace, of like information to come in. And yeah, you'll have a device like this, and then you can send that data through MIDI, or what I have right now is through Wi-Fi, and it's shot over Wi-Fi, and there's a receiver, RTP
Yeah.
receiver on my Ableton that lets me get that data over the air.
Now,
But the
what's
process,
that? What is the device that you're using now? The one that's kind of glowing. What is that called? What is that?
it's a plant wave device. It,
Okay,
yeah,
okay, that excites us. We
yeah,
have Plant Wave, the Joe Patitucci.
yes.
Yeah. Okay. Good. He's coming up on one of our future. Actually, we have a talk with him July the 20th. Yeah,
Oh,
he's on
right,
Saturday,
right, right.
July the 20th. We're doing an online program with him as well. So you all make sure that you join us for that. It's so cool to see that invention in action right now and how you have managed to work it for your particular art. I think that is so cool. Okay, keep going. Sorry.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
basically, it's what you see if here, like in the readings, like this. This is the same kind of thing you'll put on your chest, for EKG, ECG reading.
Yeah.
And plants, they all have life and they all have their electrical field. They're a living being. So you're able to place the nodes here, and the energy, the electrical field that you get from the plant's leaf or just from the plant in general, is sent through from here, what you see, into this device, and it translates that electrical frequencies or whatnot into the MIDI data. And the MIDI data
That's
is sent into the program, which you saw, which was Ableton. But
that.
within Ableton, I have boatloads of like instruments that I have recorded myself or that was already in preset mode to where it replicates, the same kind of instruments that you will see, at a sound bath. So your singing bowls, kalimbas, your guitars, piano, any other thing, that, people would bring, to a typical sound bath. And I took those same instruments and added my own on top of it to get the sounds, that I created for that album.
Got it. So you create the sounds. I just want to make sure I have this right because this is kind of like coming up in the chat too.
Yes.
Data that the plant is sending is the the electric, the
Yes.
electricity.
Yep.
Okay.
Electricity. Yep.
The
And
electricity is the data. And because you are the artist, you use that MIDI
mhm,
to, like, you already have the sounds preloaded,
mhm.
but the electricity, please.
Yeah.
If
Well,
I'm wrong,
yeah.
tell me.
Yeah.
The electricity
Electricity.
that
Yeah.
comes through
So
is what activates,
nodes.
almost like hitting a piano key. It sounds like a piano because it's a piano, not
Yeah.
because I'm a
Yeah.
piano.
So where it's gauged at in frequency wise of electricity is the
Yeah.
same apart, from the first octave to the last octave. And whatever it feels that it is, coming through, it would hit a certain note per octave. And
Okay.
yeah. Um,
Okay.
yep.
So the reason why it sounds the way it sounds is because these are instruments that you have already created. And
Yep.
now the electricity hits the MIDI,
hmm
and that's the sound that comes out. So the fact that it's, something in the chat just says like, why does it have to sound so new agey? Like when you hear about plant music, it sounds very electric and new agey, but that's because that's what the producer wants it to sound like. It can sound like whatever.
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Yep.
Okay.
And yeah, so it's up to me to turn on the sound designer side and
There we go.
pick
Okay.
up, instruments, of I don't have anything in reach, but yeah, of like the xylophone or whatnot, and record the C note of that xylophone hit, but then putting
Mhm.
it in a device that separates, the C note across the whole board. And the MIDI is just basically, and it's more like what I'm doing of twisting these knobs is live painting audio, for sale
Mm.
for the studio or for sound baths. And it's kind of like creating an album every time that I perform,
Yeah,
or just through my experiments. But
that's an
yeah, it's all up to the
incredible.
user. Some devices come with preloaded sounds, but I like the rawness of just receiving, the control voltage over air signal and MIDI Wi-Fi signal and run that into my computer. And
Yeah,
me, I'm just a second player of the game. I'm just with the second controller. So,
I
and
love that. That's
yeah,
incredible. That's incredible. So we have more questions in the chat, like folks are. We're all the way in, Imka. So one question is: different plants give off different sounds, correct? But do similar plants give similar sounds, or is it just all about the energy of that particular plant, and it doesn't matter if the plant species are the same?
yeah. It doesn't matter if they're, if you can have multiple plants. It's just the reactivity. It's just the information that is coming in.
Okay.
Every note that comes in, it will not be the same. It's just, yeah, every note that you get, or you try to re-record it or try to get a certain sound, or however you try to get your parameters. And if you heard something, and if you didn't catch it in live recording, you'll never get the same again. So it's not about the plants making the sounds because they can't. It's just I'm using the energy to translate it to MIDI in
Mm-hmm.
order for me to and hear what is being played from the plants and how I manipulate the sound and everything that's behind the sound for what it makes live.
We're really feeling it, like that live painting audio plant collabo. Yeah, that is an incredible approach to this and an incredible way to describe it. um Question
Yeah.
also from the chat. Now, would things change if would it change the signals if you place your contacts on the underside of the plant? Like, does it matter where you put them, the nodes?
It does sometimes, is because
Okay.
you're still dealing with an XY, parameters. So if they're close to each other, of course, if you was to take this and let me go back to that view. Yeah, if you was to take this and put it on another side of a plant, it will react different. But
Mm.
that's the beauty of it. You just don't know what you would get as far as having it like this, or having it at another plant, or having it, on another leaf, or having it on the bottom. So, but what does affect the reactivity is if the cables are too long, you still have to respect that. Just like if you're in live sound design or you're doing live staging, like I think it's like
Yeah.
after 100 feet, you start to get like a latency as far as like the sound, because the sound is transferring, too long to get to the people. So that's why you got people who got the ear things or whatnot, is because they're not really hearing it in real time. They have to compensate for that distance. So always just keep it close, keep it on its same wire system. There's sometimes where I would not use these traditional pieces. And if I want to do things of like putting like dipsticks or whatnot with electric tips or nodes on the tips into the ground, and more just
Right.
have a collaboration with fungi or just the ground that I walk on, the
Yeah.
reaction from that, I can do that as well.
So okay, now we're super curious about like the technology and that screen that you had up, like the digital audio workstation, like your DAW, right?
Hmm.
I'm just learning these technology terms, and I know there's some producers in the chat like, oh girl, we've been on this. But for your DAW, can
Yeah.
you walk us through like what's going on there? Like, is that where you add the instrumentation? Yeah, tell us a little bit more about how you
Yeah.
use, is it Ableton? That's the DAW?
Yes, it's
Okay.
Ableton. It might be split, or it might be somewhat small on your side. But as far as like what a simple project would look like, would be, of course, limiter, as far as you don't want your high end sounds hitting your ears too hard, or just overtaking the stage gaining of like other instruments,
Okay.
as a whole. So it kind of gives you that resting area on your ear, so it won't be so high in volume. So this is like your limiter. This is, by Fab Filter. And then, you can have devices like this, to where as you see what's going on down here, certain parameters are changing through steps. And where you put those instruments, then that's where it kind of gets detailed, as far as, like your strings, or you can have a viola, cello, you can have a guitar, but it's all about like this, the sounds that's being placed in there. And this is the back end that I have to deal with, as far as, to get the music that I want out of certain
Yeah.
instruments that's already pre-made, or inserting my own recordings. And I deal with a lot of granular synthesis. So it's more of like time stretching notes,
Okay.
per mark of across the sample in general. So it can get very deep, but
Yes.
here you'll see like the length, typical Ableton, I guess you would say, controller of notes, as far as when the data comes in, I can either have this note here, and I can stretch it, as soon as I turn it, or every single note that's coming in, I can adjust its time of like holding that note. So that's where you can play around with expressions of like the note of the instrument itself. This is right here something where it's controlling the pitch. So of each incoming note. So I can go very high. So when you heard it go very high, it's because, I was adjusting that. Or if I
Uh-huh.
wanted to have something low, I can adjust that. But that's how that part goes. Then you see here, this is like a device called, well, since this device, you can't get a reading of the velocity. So you have to add some randomness in it.
Okay.
And that's what you see here when the incoming notes are coming. Like you get the complete randomness of the notes that's coming in, as far as velocity. So soft note to hard note, like stuff like that.
Uh-huh.
And then this is another program here to where I can lock it in, which I don't really need this no more because Ableton did an update to where I can change, the key of the song and the scale of the song, and any incoming notes, it would just take it away and filter it to have the sound staying in key. And I can adjust that. So I can go from, E minor to C major, I can go to Dorian, I can go across a lot of scales while I'm playing it live.
Now, is the level of electromagnetic activity from the plant, does that also impact like the intensity or like how well you can hear or use the instruments that are already programmed in there?
Yeah, so the intensity of like control voltage or when I deal with that level, that's more being sent to the velocity. So if it's a
Okay.
high note and if it gets, a high note on the high octave, I can have I can have it to where it says, I want you to play that note very soft, is because I don't want to hurt anybody's ears live.
Got it.
So that's where I send that information from,
Okay.
where I send it to.
Yeah. Have you
And
used any other DAWs? Like, and why Ableton?
Ableton is because I'm able to, write scripts of devices, or it's just easier to deal with. No
Mhm.
other, I mean, you got Bitwig, which is ex-employees from Ableton that made their
Okay.
DAW with not in competition. But with this one, what's different between a Pro Tools, which is your native studio standard, DAW. There's a lot
Mhm.
of things you cannot do live or on the spot within Pro Tools. So this is more of like a playing field of, you can write code into it, you can create your own instruments, you can create your own devices, you can manipulate all these back end parameters by hand, like what I was doing here with all of the lights and the knobs that I was switching to behind the scenes. So yeah, Ableton is just better at live than everything
Okay.
else. But if you're a traditional live guy, most people play the guitar live and have their setup outside, lunch boxes and stuff with like Reaper. So Ableton is just fits. It's just what I am. I write code. I used to hack back in my day. I still build websites. I know Java. I know C++. I know
Yeah.
Python. All that language that a lot of people don't really use in music production, but I take those and bring all of that knowledge into why I create this device or why I use this instrument the way I use, to where
Yeah.
somebody would just play and I'm all like, now let me go behind the scenes and change the attack, sustain. Let me change the effects of the reverb, or how long this echo. Is it going to be a triplet type of echo? Is it going to be 4/4? 6/8? So I can change all of that. So it's like, yeah, live painting. You just don't know what's going to happen. It's like jazz. It's just like a feel every
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. And it's so cool to bring this field into connection with the field of plants, right? Because you don't normally see these two fields come together in this way. And so to
Right.
hear things like Python and reverb, but then also to hear plants and leaves in the same sentence, in the same situation, is very refreshing, and is definitely the wave of plant humanities. This idea that people and plants do have a connection. And unfortunately for our, young folks in schools, we
Mhm.
don't really get the plant education that we used to, right? It kind of stops at like second and third grade, and then you're kind of off on your own. So when we do get opportunities to bring our expertise into a field that connects us to nature, it's a really incredible thing to see.
Yes.
A question more from the chat is, have you experimented with the same plant in different scenarios, such as playing music, maybe if it's dark or light, hot versus cold?
Yeah.
What's that been like?
Yeah, I have. I even done 24-hour recordings to where I was surprised that I go to sleep. Plants do go to sleep as well. There was no reactivity for a certain time, and I'll wake up and I'll check my 8-hour like sleep recording, and there'll be nothing there. But
Wow.
what happened when I walked into the room, it felt like it recognized like I was there, and I got reactivity back into those recordings. So it was it's cool and weird to see that, at that time you're like, whoa, like there was no lights, there was nothing happening. But as soon as I snapped my fingers or made a move or like came into the same space, there it jumped back up.
Yeah,
So
what a
yes.
moment. Like I guess that's one of those moments where your connection to plants or your appreciation is kind of changed. Any big thoughts around that? Like, how has your connection to plants changed since you've been doing this kind of work?
Keeping my plants healthier. Everybody was I was a green thumb, getting all into this. I knew how to plant stuff, everything. I know how to take care of a plant, but I was still considered a green thumb as I, making this music. So as I'm evolving, I'm understanding how to take care of my plants, better. So that's my connection. But also, it's also bringing me peace. It's put me in my comfort zone. It makes me sit here for hours and just make music with the signals of plants.
That's incredible. So how about flowers and trees? Have you experimented with any of their unique sounds or creatively played with flowers or trees?
Yeah. Me and a friend, Joshua Kogan, we had this event where we went to I'll have to look it up, but that recording is on my Bandcamp at the time.
Okay.
But yes, did the magnolia tree. Even though we couldn't get up to the top, we still attached it to the body. And we had like overnight, like silent listenings of or silent headphones, silent disco, I guess people would say. Where people, would be in parks outside. So yeah, I've done it. Yeah. Rock Creek Park. Yeah. Doing it after the dark. Yeah. Yeah.
That's it. I mean, it's a DC thing. You got to do Rock Creek Park. You got to shout it out at least once. For sure. And so thank you for dropping the Bandcamp, because folks want to know about a YouTube channel or a Bandcamp channel, and you all, it's in the links tab. And also Emily has dropped the link to where to find more information and what to find out what Imka is doing next. I mean, what are you doing next, Imka? When can we join another experience with you again in the future? We're not quite done. We just, while we're here.
Yes, listening to the albums at your own leisure, that's definitely, something that you can do. It's hours and hours of music there. And those albums are the Health Plus, Minus Plus album. That's the live stuff that I do. Where I had all the recordings for my previous Soundbaths here in the city to, Cali, to working with indigenous people of Brazil, to Kahuna people, and tapping into their sacred plants or having
what was
data.
That experience like?
Oh, that was a good experience with a company up in London. They're called Wild Alchemy Labs. I'm sorry, and they went on a journey to archive, the Takona people who are, on the verge of being extinct, is because of the fact of what's going on down in South America, and they're losing their music, and they never had their music archived. The tonal scale of their music was never archived. Their vocal recordings was never published, to the people. It's always been sacred. So the journey was basically being in contact with those people for a loaded amount of time. And we were able to record their voices, just in case, they're not here. They still have, their voice. They still have their instruments, their tone of microtonal scale of their music. So yeah, that
Yeah.
was a journey. And yeah.
Yeah.
I
Well,
have a whole
on that,
book. There's a whole book about it too.
okay.
Yeah, there's a whole book about it. But yeah.
Yeah, I'm certainly interested because it sounds like every time you open yourself up to nature, here comes another adventure, right?
Mhm.
So are there any other plants you'd like to experiment with in the future that you haven't been able to work with?
All over
Future
the
adventure?
world. I mean,
Wow.
I mean, just like how we are here today, it was a dream, to talk
Yeah.
and share with United States, Botanic Gardens. But I would love to go overseas into places unknown and get those kind of, recordings, with those plants and bring them back and just continue to keep on, making music because until we all pass away, this
Mhm.
music is infinite. It will never be the same. It's always a challenge. So I'll be forever here, as long as we here, and long as our forest is here, and as long as we got gardens and nurseries. So,
That's
yep.
awesome. Have you been able to connect with other artists who are doing very similar work as you, but they have some different or even just more interesting approaches?
Yeah. It's small but growing community. It's
Yes,
not in the thousands or hundred thousands or millions. Like
right,
everybody can
right,
rap, but not everybody can make plant music or have a genuine connection.
correct, correct.
To Mother Earth. So, but yeah, I have met some people in my time. And
Yeah,
speaking on the guy Joe, he have met a lot, and yeah, it's a community of us, but it's
yeah,
different. It's not like forefront. We would love to make it forefront. We're pushing for it, but we understand that it is alternative, to the music. It's not traditional, so
yeah,
it holds a sacred place with us.
yeah. And it sounds like your approach is deeply personal. So it's not necessarily something that can be manufactured or like, but it's something that you do because this is where you are, like energetically,
Yeah.
right? Because, yeah. Yeah. When people have these sound bath experiences with you, what do they tell you about like what they experience as listeners?
It's actually in the same realm
Yeah.
of oh, I'm sorry. Somebody did say details of the book. It's actually just a magazine that highlighted that time of the Tacona people. But yeah, they had similar stories, similar studies.
Yeah.
But some people would use this information and attach it to robot arms, banging on
Mm,
different kind of instruments or whatnot to get their style of recording. So
yeah.
there's many ways that you can approach it, and there's so many, which the many ways to still have a crazy output. You know.
Yeah. Well, are you willing to close us out with another session of a sound bag for us?
Yeah, yeah. No problem. Let's see what we
Yeah, we would
got.
love that. So like as you are prepping that, I will just let some folks know. Thank you all so much. Please stay for the sound bath, stay for that transformative feeling, that energetic move that Imka so effortlessly almost, but with the expertise does for us. It is amazing. I know when I first started to look into this, it did just look like some buttons are being pushed. But the more that I listen, the more that I learn, the more that
Mhm.
I am seeing that this is an incredible work of heart.
Yes.
And it is a co-creation with other living things in the world around us. So we thank you so much for sharing this gift with us today. It's been incredible.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me sharing it with y'all.
Yeah. We'd like to thank everyone for joining us today. This ends our program. Thank you for sharing your afternoon with us. Imka, thank you for sharing your expertise with us. You'll have a wonderful day.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks.
Thank you for having me. And yeah, hope to hear y'all on the other side.
For sure. All righty.
All right, y'all take care.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.